Hi there, my name is David Batsoffen and I host a travel blog called Travel and Things. Every Saturday during the month of November, I'll be hosting a masterclass in inverted commas on some aspect of photography. And during November, it's sea life and marine photography. And to chat to us about it, it's Don Hunter. Don, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks, David. Yourself?
Very well, thank you. Given our technical difficulties, but the viewers don't need to know that we've been struggling, for about 72 hours to get this little broadcast together. But we have persevered, and here we are, good, bad, or indifferent. So where are we going to pick up today, Don?
All right, well, we were running through some photos. You haven't allowed me to participate in share screen, so you need to fix that.
My apologies.
And then I'll find some photos to go through.
Right, there you go. Now you can share.
All right, so.
Okay, we're
going to start with this one.
All right. It's a whale of a tail.
Did we do this, David? I can't remember.
I think we did, Don, but let's start. We can refresh people's memories. That was a very specific type of whale you did mention to us on a school of anchovies, if I'm not mistaken.
No, this is these are sardines.
They all look the same to me.
And yeah, so just to refresh then, so one of the holy grail wildlife spectacles that happens on our east coast is the annual sardine run, as it's so called. We get an enormous amount of sardines coming up the coast from the deep south, and a lot of heavy predator concentrations follow them up. And one of them is the Brutus whale. And these whales are not as obvious and showy as the southern rights and the humpbacks that flop around and tail lob and jump and splash, and that these are much more secretive whales. But they're the ones that eat sardines. And so wherever you get lots of sardines, you get these guys coming in. And this is an image taken on the sardine run where we're whizzing around in a boat and looking for action, and we jump in and out of the water, and lo and behold, every now and again you get something spectacular like this, where you find a tiny bait ball. Most of it has probably been eaten already by the dolphins and the birds and the sharks, and the whales arrived, and he's going to clean up the rest. And unfortunately, he didn't open his mouth to engulf this, because there's a little bit of foreshortening going on here. And that sardine ball is closer to me. It's actually heading towards me for protection. And the whale is about to go behind the sardine. And that's the kind of shot trying to get on the sardine run.
Just as a matter of interest, Don, do scientists know how many sardines start this run and how many finish? You know, if you look at the migration, the wildebeest that migrate across the Mara, they say that despite the numbers taken by crocs and other predators, the same number of wildebeest finish that migration as started it. And is it the same with these anchovies and sardines, or are their numbers severely depleted?
Okay, so I'm not a marine expert, and I only read what comes into the public domain on this stuff. But I have not read anywhere about what the estimated mass is that comes up the coast. It's not the major portion. It's a minor portion, I understand, of what's out there in the deep south on the Agulhas banks. And they're not traveling specifically for spawning. So they are getting depleted. And as they run up, they are getting pushed into a narrow water column close to the shore, it's the cold counter current that's going up the coast, counter to the warm Mozambique current that's coming down. And that's why they finish up heading up there, I understand, is because they think it's an extension of their less than 19-degree water home down south. And then they slowly get depleted from all the predators and people fishing. And by the time they get to Durban, not much left generally. And they finish up on the beaches, and that's the end of them. So there's no, I've never read of anything of them going back down south. So basically the ones that come up are going to disappear.
All right, let's move on, shall we?
All right, so this is an image, and it's one of the ones that I've been battling to get because it is quite a difficult image to be in the right place at the right time for. So that at the back there is a Cape Gannet, and it is come through the surface at great speed, plummeting down from a 6-kilogram bird, and it comes flying into that water. It makes a shot like a gunshot when it hits the water, and it flies down 5-10 meters in the water, and it often swims another 5 to get down to 15 and catch a sardine and make its way back to the surface. And it's quite spectacular.
It seems to be an inordinate amount of work for very little return.
Yeah, yes, but that's what they do. They fly around and they catch sardines. The sardines are quite big, so a bird like that, I mean, 3 sardines in a day, and he'll be done. So yeah.
And then along come these guys and just
now these guys are not typically sardine eaters. They are small fish eaters. So this is a ragged tooth shark. Elsewhere in the world, they're called sand tiger sharks, but we know them as ragged teeth. It's patently obvious when you look at the sharp end there. And we have this lovely, absolutely amazing number of these apex predators that inhabit our reefs, our shallow reefs. So you can find these guys in 6-7 meters of water, and they are, by daytime, they are very placid and sleeping. They hunt at dusk and in the night, and they are not dangerous to people. They don't bite people unless you're trying to do something silly with it. You can approach them. They have very, very poor eyesight, and they will swim up to you. If you keep still in the water, they will approach you to within half a meter, and then they will get a fright and swim off. And it's a really beautiful shark. But what's quite nice is these images in black and white, because it changes the whole dynamic of the water column. So you can get all the impurities in your post-processing out of the water column and just get this lovely animal in contrast, in great contrast in the black and white.
I've heard of these sharks being referred to as the cocker spaniels of the sea.
That probably is quite a fitting description, yes. So there is a dive operator in Natal that has worked out a way of removing the hooks that these guys accumulate, because they are famous for taking large chunks of bait that people are using to fish for whatever, and but they're very strong and powerful and big, and so they generally break the tackle. And it's uncommon to have one that doesn't have a hook in its mouth. It's one of the sad things about it, and that's one of the things I do take pictures of these animals with the huge hooks and rigging out the side of its mouth to show people that, you know, the fishing is not harmless. there's bycatch and side issues to it, and they should be using hooks that come out and the right tackle for catching what they're trying to catch, and
Right.
not trying to catch sharks by mistake. But anyway, that's one of the images that I do quite a lot of, and it amuses me to do these. So there's one is a female. So mostly the ones that are hanging out on our reefs in the Natal coast are pregnant females. They come in at a particular time of the year, and they just hang around there waiting, gestating, waiting to give birth. They have a fascinating setup there where they have 3 uteri, and they have a couple of eggs in each uteri which hatch. So they have live young inside, and they eat each other in the uteri until there's only one left. So she will give birth to 3 pups at the end of the process. So it's a very interesting breeding mechanism that's developed.
Wow. So
and
what?
This one's sitting under. You can see at the background there. There's a diver at the back there. You can see his strobe peeking out there.
Yeah.
So he's taking a shot from the other side. There's these lovely yellow sponges, and we had found a frogfish in here, and so I was taking a whole lot of shots to try and look afterwards to see if I could find the frogfish in the photo as well. But alas, he was missing that.
Missing. But now, Don, just let's go back to that in utero fighting. So the one that emerges is obviously the stronger of the 3. So
correct. Yes.
He or she sets
so the others that are in the uteri are food. Then they are provided there as a food mechanism for the first or the largest one to feed on.
Wow. Okay. And we thought we were top of the food chain. Well.
So on Aliwal Shoal, we have a place called Cathedral, which is this large hole in the rock with a big arched opening at one end, where I am positioned at the moment, and I'm looking through. And this is where a lot of the sharks hang out in the daytime. They just slowly cruise around in a circle, and you often get a shoal of baitfish, which they would feed on after dark. But in the daytime, it seems like everybody's happy to coexist there. And I just particularly like this tornado shape of the baitfish, the striped grunter, with the sharks milling around them.
Don, when you do wildlife photography, you sort of wake up in the morning, you have a look at the weather, and you go, all right, I'm going out today, or I'm not, because it's pouring with rain, and you don't want to have wet impalas watching them type of thing. But when you're doing marine photography, you're wet all the time. And I don't know what your limitations are or how long you dive for. Do you dive every day? Do you set aside a week and go, all right, I'm going to dive in this spot every morning or every afternoon, depending on the light and depending on the weather conditions?
Yes. At the moment, I'm sort of diving 1 day a week on a continuous basis. Living in Durban, I head down to Aliwal, which is about 40 minutes drive away, and I'll generally do 2 dives. And a dive will be anything from 60 minutes to 70 minutes, depending on the depth. And yes, that's your bundle. So you've only got literally 40 to 50 minutes in position somewhere to get the shots that you're looking for.
And are you diving on regular air, or are you diving on nitrox?
I generally dive on nitrox, but if there is none available, then we go back to air. But yeah, nitrox is preferable. It gives you a little bit more bottom time, and it gives you a little bit more margin for error. So yeah,
And
nitrox is good.
and
And
also
what
no
you're looking
bubbles.
for, I'm looking for there's still bubbles,
Mhm.
which I haven't done. It's a complication that I just don't need in my life at the moment. I have enough trouble trying to take images without worrying about the rebreather as well.
Oh, sorry,
Um,
I was thinking of rebreathers, not nitrox. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. So rebreathing is interesting, but again, if you can't stay down for more than an hour in the cold water, it's no point having a rebreather. I battle with the cold water. I've had enough after 70 minutes. I'm ready to come up. So
Years ago,
yeah.
I was interviewing a diver, and he was very proud of the fact that without any training, he tried a rebreather, and he almost died because there's a whole way of using a rebreathing system,
Yes, no,
and
that's complicated. Yeah.
and he thought he was going to get an ooh-ah from me. And live on radio, I said, "How stupid are you that you go into an unknown set of
Exactly.
circumstances, carrying stuff that you don't know how to use, and then when you almost die, you think I must give you a round of applause." You know, that's what the Darwin Award is for,
Yeah.
is to get rid
Exactly.
of people like
Exactly.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I'm more interested in the color,
Yeah.
and the deeper you go, the less color there is. So I'm not interested, particularly interested in deep diving, which is why I don't do tech diving, because I haven't really had an urge to get down to 60, 70 meters to go and see those wrecks in the dark down there. Doesn't really grab me. There's so much to do closer to the surface.
Yeah.
And if you're not diving on a rebreather, you're going down that deep, you're not down for very long. You know, if you get down to 45 meters on nitrox, you're there for 12 minutes. And I feel cheated. I feel very cheated for a 12-minute dive.
Yeah, exactly. You get off 2 shots
I,
if you're
I,
lucky.
I would rather do 90 minutes at 10 meters.
Exactly. This is what people
Yeah.
don't realize. It's a whole different world down there. And things can go very wrong very quick. Much like this image. I'm hoping that the guy that's looking so relaxed knows what's just beneath his fins.
So yeah, it's a provocative image, isn't it?
It
With
is
a
indeed.
shark that's actually coming up to inspect the diver. But in fact, the shark wasn't. He was just coming up to look at something on the surface, and he wasn't interested in the diver. But there are occasions where the shark comes to investigate people who wear white, light, flashy fins. If you've got black and white fins, you will at some point have a shark come and investigate them. It thinks that it's probably got some sardines swimming around your feet.
Right.
And but this leads me on to another topic, which is the shark baiting.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a big industry in South Africa. There's a lot of it going on. This is a blacktip shark from Aliwal Shoal, and there's a number of operations all up the south and east coast that are doing baiting, from great whites, which is a bit of a hazardous occupation, to diving with the black tips, and they are completely harmless. They've done literally hundreds of thousands of hours of diving with these black tips. You can see this image here. This dark guy is putting sardine in the water. So the sharks are excited. They are feeding, and yet they are still not dangerous to people. They, as long as the visibility is anything over 3 or 4 meters, they can see you. You can see them. It's all good, and it's an amazing experience. I have to tell you that. But there's a lot of controversy about it.
You know, Don, you say say that about chumming or putting out bait for sharks, and I hear that in what that's all about. And I suppose it would be the same if you went to a game reserve and all of a sudden the vehicle that you're on is towing a dead buffalo or impala in order to bring predators out of the grass. How would you feel about that? It's a similar sort of setup. So I don't believe that they should chum for sharks. If you get into the water and you see them, you see them. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. You can spend 1,000 hours in the water before you get a really good shark shot of some species. If you don't chum, if you're very serious about getting your images, you might want to go that route. Yeah, I don't know. What's interesting though is, there's always been a lot of concern about changing the animal's behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And there doesn't seem to be any great concern about that.
Okay.
They certainly, this particular operation on Aliwal, they bait off the reef. So these animals are not looking for divers on the reef to see if they're bringing food. They're not trying to get into your pocket to see if you're hiding food. So they seem to be going about their normal behavior of looking for sardines, no matter where they appear.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a debatable topic.
Okay. Don, before we wrap up, let's do one more image because we're almost out of time for this particular edition. Oh,
right.
I do like this one.
So here's a lovely little chap. His name is Bob. And he's got a name because he's a rescue turtle. So he's a green turtle,
right?
Which is the turtle that has the most fantastic shell, the color on the shell. Why they're green turtles are because a lot of the time they have green algae growing on top of them or something like that, but they're not green most of the time. And when you find one that's been scrubbed and cared for like this one, who is currently in the Two Oceans Aquarium in Cape Town, I had the great privilege of being invited to come and dive in one of the tanks there and to take pictures of Bob and spread the turtle love and to help raise funds for all of them, but especially the Two Oceans that run these turtle rescue operations.
Are you
so if any member of the public finds a turtle on the beach, it will be because it's sick and injured, and there's a whole network of people that they can get hold of through SENCOB and various organizations. The NSRI is the easiest number to find, and they'll put them onto the right contact. And then people will come out of the woodwork and take the turtle and drive, fly, boat it to the hospital, and it will go into care there where a whole lot of volunteers will feed it and scrub it and give it antibiotics and repair shells that have been damaged by boats and flippers that have been damaged by sharks and so on and so on, and get them back to a healthy stage and then release them again. And it's a very successful program. So last year, in fact, time has gone, it might have been the year before, there was a turtle, Yoshi, who was released with a satellite tag. And over the next 18 months, she covered 40,000 kilometers. So she was released in Cape Town. She went up the west coast to Namibia, and then came back and then went across to Australia and around and about, and amazing. So
I don't know if you're aware that tracker has just died.
Yes, yes.
The turtle is fine, but the tracker is no longer getting data.
So, but she seems to have found a home somewhere off northwest Australia there.
Yeah.
So yes. So hopefully Bob will do the same thing.
I think it's great. You talk about diving at Two Oceans. Some years ago, I did a copper helmet dive at Two Oceans in the Predator tank. I don't think they do it anymore. But it's one of the most awesome things, because those old canvas suits are like vacuum pack you. So you have a dump valve on the back of the helmet. And if you find you're getting too much air and you're starting to look like the Michelin Man, then all you do is you lean back and you just press the valve, and that releases the air. But what it does do at the same time is it gives you an all-over body hug. I have never been hugged like that before or since. It was the most awesome experience. And I did say to the people that were controlling the dive from the surface that I believe that the helmet was from Johannesburg. And when they asked me why I thought that, I said, because it's got bars on the windows. If it was, coastal helmets don't have bars, but I don't think they do the copper helmet dive anymore. And then I was also very lucky to dive in the old kelp tank. But what you said a little earlier about sharks looking in your pockets for food, what I didn't realize is when they strapped the food packet to me, like a fanny pack of food, that the fish knew where it was. And as I got into the water, a red Roman got me in the nether regions like I'd been kicked by something very serious. And all I could see were bubbles erupting from the guy who was diving with me, because he was laughing so hard. He knew it was coming, and he decided not to warn me.
Yes, well, for me, I've dived in all of those tanks there, and the turtles can be the most dangerous, because they can bite you if you've got something hidden there and they want it, they're going to bite you.
Don, can we go back to full screen while we talk about this, because I'm about to wrap up this particular episode. So thank you, Bob. You can go back to wherever you came from. Don, if we can go back to full screen. There we go. Thank you very much. Are the dives open to the general public, or is it by invite only now?
No, it's by invite only, yeah.
Okay. For those who have the opportunity, it is a great, if you can crack an invite, it's a great way to see the aquarium in a totally different light. Don, that's our time for this particular episode. Next week is our final episode, unfortunately, because November is a short month. It only has 4 Saturdays. So thank you very much for joining me once again. I'm glad that the system technically held this morning. For people who want to find out more about Don and his work, you can go and check him out on Facebook. Don, thanks once again for joining me here on In Conversation With.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.